You really deserve a life that's free from constraint, and I'm really rooting for you.
Hey there, podcast friend. Welcome to the Building Thriving Lifestyles. This is the podcast where we are flipping the script on how beginners to advanced CrossFit, OCR, and High Rocks enthusiasts can hit their peak performances, maximizing their physical capacity without those burnout blues and hustle culture. I'm your host, Egilodóttir, and I'm here to bring you a blend of expert interviews, personal stories from athletes around the world, mixed with some professional insight as a certified health and wellness coach, physiotherapist, and a former elite athlete, now turned into a fellow athlete. Get ready for some deep dive into the art of crushing your fitness goals while embracing your self-care. This is your go-to spot for a kick-ass and endurance lifestyle. So let's go on a walk, drive, or clean your house together. You just need to grab your headphones, hit play, and then let me take care of filling your ears with some actionable inspiration that you can use to build your thriving and your striving lifestyle.
Welcome to the Building Thriving Lifestyles podcast. I'm your host, Egilodóttir, and today's episode is definitely a little bit different from the regular episodes we do. On today's episode, I want to take you through my Gut Chronicles. And if you've been following this podcast for a while, you know that we've covered a lot of topics related to gut health and what you can do to improve it. And today I wanted to let you in a little bit behind the scenes on why this topic is so near and dear to my heart. I wanted to share a little bit more about my journey with gut health. I know I probably haven't shared as much as I should about this on social media, but as a matter of fact, as you probably know, anything related to your gut health and your bowel movement kind of feels a little bit private, but I want to share with you kind of what my journey has been and explain some of the steps that I've been through, what has helped and what hasn't, and hope that if you are experiencing any of these symptoms, if you are also dealing with this roller coaster of being bloated, looking pregnant, having stomach issues, running to the bathroom anytime, and living with a limited diet, then I just wanted to let you know that you're not alone out there. And I actually have some suggestions to what you can do to kind of help yourself improve. But, take what you want from my journey. This is not an expert episode by any means. It's more just like a fellow struggler sharing with you what I have gone through. So my journey with gut health started 13 years ago when I was living in Copenhagen, and I got the diagnosis of IBS. At the time, I was taking my first step in competitive CrossFit, and I was starting to try to work out twice a day. I don't want to get too graphic, but a normal morning for me would be that I would get up, I would have my little breakfast, and then I would proceed to go to the bathroom somewhere between 5 and 10 times before 8 a.m. Needless to say, this obviously severely affected my training, my ability to attend school. It really affected my ability to go to work, as I kind of never really knew if I was going to have to go to the bathroom 15 times that day or just a couple of times. It's really awkward to kind of get up from your classroom, or I was working in a physio clinic at the time, to have to kind of just excuse yourself and run to the bathroom. It's a nightmare. And understandably, that really disturbed my kind of ability to leave the house and caused some academic challenges for me and so on. Luckily, in Denmark, the healthcare system is exceptional. Out of all the countries that I've lived in, Denmark is, super privileged with, you get your own GP that you develop a personal relationship with. That's not the case in Iceland at the moment, and definitely not in the UAE. But I had a really good contact with my GP. We had regular chat, and he really took my complaint serious, and he ran some tests. Limited amount of tests that were available there 13 years ago, but he kind of came up with this IBS diagnosis. He looked into the science and the knowledge for me, and he kind of, with lack of any further testing, he kind of recommended cutting out gluten and lactose. And these were kind of the first dietary restrictions that I embarked on. They improved my symptoms somewhat, and I was kind of able to kind of stop this constant running to the bathroom business. He also added in a lot of water-soluble fibers, so it's called psyllium husk, is something that he had me add into my diet. So that was something that kind of slowed these symptoms down for me at that time. Now, from this, I was able to train a lot more and I was able to progress, and I kind of like progressed as an athlete as well in that kind of period. And through my kind of athlete career, I didn't struggle a lot with my gut. Of course, there would be a little bit of like symptoms flaring up related to like competition season and like big competitions. But my, like these changes, which was, eliminating the lactose and gluten and adding more fibers in, they made these kind of changes so that my gut was pretty good through my competitive career. For years, because I was super dedicated as an athlete, I was fueling on like extremely clean nutrition. My training and my eating was super methodical. Everything was written down and noted down. And I mostly ate corn, oats, rice, eggs, lean beef, chicken, fish, and then loads and loads of fruits and vegetables. And my gut, and then obviously a lot of digestible liquid, like easily digestible liquid, non-milk based options for proteins and carbs in and around my training. This all worked super well for my gut. And I don't remember while competing and stuff to ever have experienced this like super bloating, painful kind of scenarios. Then if we fast forward, as I came out of competitive sports and kind of like settled into my retirement from the competitive sports, not that I'm maybe completely done with competing, but I've definitely slowed down. I'm no longer training those 4 to 6 hours a day. I'm kind of just like more like a hobby enthusiast at the moment. And I started to eat and live a little bit more like a normal human, where a normal diet kind of allows for more flexibility. There is a couple of more like processed food and a couple of more like gluten-free option. Whereas like when I was competing, I kind of like completely eliminated those kind of processed multi-ingredient things. I was just kind of like eating stuff that was as clean as possible. Then some of my gut symptoms started to come back. There's always been that joke, and I used to, maybe in my competitive career, I forgot to say that I would like have an ice cream after a competition and then I would struggle. But I would always eat that after the competition so that I would just struggle for a couple of days afterwards. But anyways, when I kind of came out of this competitive phase and retirement, and then, symptoms just started picking up a little bit again. And then the most recent, that kind of completely set things off was the relocation back to Iceland. It was a super stressful 6-month period of stress, super high anxiety. It's really, really, really stressful and anxiety provoking to move countries and to move countries from the UAE to Iceland that have such a different set of values and rules was just extremely stressful for us, including the relocation of the dog. But anyways, we didn't have access to kitchen for a couple of months, where we kind of like were in between housing and kind of like selling everything in the UAE and then waiting for that to be shipped and then living with some other people and couch surfing and all of that. So we didn't really have access to kitchen and consistent cooking at the time. Using delivery services and other fast food options to kind of keep ourselves fueled, plus all the stress and the lack of time to be able to cook. But basically, long story short, I really felt my gut flaring up again with those kind of like familiar symptoms of bloating, stomach cramps, fatigue, and just overall feeling really unpleasant and unsettled in my body. That, if you're struggling with gut health, you probably recognize and know. But despite my best effort, after we kind of landed in our beautiful little house, we started cooking more regularly. And like a part of my kind of anti-stressing has really been to like focus on my diet. So when we were settled, I got back into kind of the super clean eating, like single ingredients, eating pre and probiotics, adding fiber into my diet, completely cutting out the gluten and, the lactose and all these home remedies. It just didn't really improve my symptoms. So after I'd been doing that for almost 6 months, I was like, okay, what else? This, like I said, really left me feeling kind of stuck because like I had already been eliminating that lactose and gluten that had worked for me before. But I was kind of like, okay, what else? Like, what am I doing that's irritating my gut? And like, how can I actually improve this? I was feeling really stuck with this, and I decided to take the leap of faith and ask Valeo if they would consider sponsoring a food intolerance test for this channel, for me to try to see how it kind of would go, and for me to be able to share this experience with you. It's really important for me to note that they sponsored this episode with the food test, but I'm not affiliated with them in any way, so I don't get paid for this review. I was super skeptical going into this test, but I was also kind of hopeful because I didn't really know where to look and what to eliminate to be able to improve the situation. I'd already done everything that I knew how to do and what the science tells us that we can do, like eating pre and probiotics and, plenty of water and vinegar and, all of those things. The results that I got back from this testing, which is just a blood test, it doesn't have to be fasting, but it was taken at the same time as my other blood test on the 5th of December, so it was actually a fasted one. But anyways, these results were nothing less than shocking. So it came back with not just lactose and gluten, but it showed that I had sensitivity to other markers in the dairy, so all dairy. It also showed that eggs were actually something that really irritated my system, and then pineapple juice. And suddenly it all just kind of made sense. Because since I moved back, I've been adding so many lacto-free dairy products, something that just wasn't very tasty, affordable, or available to me in the UAE. Then we have it here in Iceland, and we have this my favorite brand of lacto-free Greek yogurt, and I just literally been eating that twice a day since I moved back. And like I say, it's just the availability and the deliciousness of it that kind of had brought that back into my diet. And then I'd also been eating eggs every single day since I moved back. So these things that I had been adding in that were healthy options was actually the stuff that was irritating my gut, or looked like it was irritating my gut. Yeah, life really works in a mysterious way. The stuff that I thought I was doing that was really good for me was actually the stuff that was harming me. It's important for me to just hit pause here for a second on this story and just take the moment to kind of explain the difference between food intolerance and allergies. It's not that I was allergic to dairy and eggs. It is actually that some part of my digestive system is having issues with breaking it down, and it's called a food intolerance. And intolerances, they can kind of cause stress and inflammation in our body and make it very hard for the digestive system to break things down. This can trigger somewhat of an immune response in your body, but it's not like the breaking out in hives and having allergy symptoms. So it's more subtle. It's more like bloating, maybe some constipation, possibly some faster bowel movement, or can be also just fatigue and just your system is on overdrive, so to speak. Now, the food intolerance test is not the golden standard for if this is a food intolerance, if your body actually cannot process it or not. What is the golden standard in this matter is to eliminate it completely from your diet, see if your symptoms get better, and then introducing it back one by one to kind of see how your body reacts to it. So back to this, okay, no dairy, no eggs, no gluten, and no pineapples basically means that I'm living a gluten-free vegan diet, but still adding meat. I got this news, like I said, I did the test on the 5th of December. I got the results back on the 10th. I had the chat with the holistic medicine doctor on I think it was the 19th of December, so just before Christmas. And it's just kind of like a little bit of a shock to the system going into Christmas with completely eliminating all eggs, dairy, and gluten. Kind of made me dread a little bit the upcoming Christmas. But after I had kind of taken a moment to mourn and grieve those beloved breakfast options, especially the eggs and my Greek yogurt, I had to kind of gather myself and turn to Pinterest to kind of gather some inspiration and explore the different options that they have in the stores here for egg replacers, vegan butter, cheese alternatives, and all those things. So I could kind of still maintain my diet and the things that I like to eat that makes me feel full and good, just without those things that were irritating it. Now, like I said, as soon as I got the news on the 10th of December, within 3 days of actually doing the test, I just started to eliminate those things, stop eating scrambled eggs, stop ordering the avocado on toast when I went out, just had the acai bowl or whatever. But it was really magical that very shortly after I started taking everything out, I think it was only 3 days after I started taking everything out that was irritating my gut, those kind of bloating and the pain and the irregular bowel movements and the brain fog, they just kind of disappeared. It's really funny because I was in the UAE at the time. I was walking my friend's dog, and the days prior where I'd been eating eggs for breakfast and having half a liter of pineapple juice after my training, I was kind of like walking bent forward because I couldn't really straighten out because my stomach symptoms were so severe. And 3 days later, I wasn't feeling anything, and I felt like some of my brain capacity and power was back. So that made me feel really motivated to kind of continue this over Christmas, even though I knew it was going to be a little bit of a struggle. Now, from this conversation that I had with a holistic medicine doctor, they recommended a 12-week elimination period before reintroducing any of these food items again. And this is the golden standard that I was talking about. So it's not actually getting the test results. The test results can also just show up if you've been eating a lot of it recently. They can show up as an irritant to your immune system. But the actual golden test is to eliminate it for a 12-week period, which is then from December until now when I'm recording this, which is the beginning of March, where I've completely taken out eggs, dairy, pineapple juice, and gluten. And then I've started gradually to integrate one thing at a time in different, cooking methods and processing methods. So, for example, when I introduce eggs, I do it in nothing leading up to, and then I eat a boiled egg and then see kind of how my body reacts. And then 2-3 days later, depending on how that went, you can then try to add in a fried egg or a scrambled egg and then see how your body reacts. And then you add in a baked egg as a kind of a process of it. So it does matter how the proteins and how the food is cooked, and that will affect the way that your body kind of deals with it and absorbs it. But I'll make a different episode about how the reintroduction went, and just wanted to kind of give you the highlights of what an actual elimination diet means. It doesn't mean that you have to take it out forever, but it does mean that you take it out for a certain amount of time. You allow your gut to kind of reset, to feel normal again, and then you kind of reintroduce it one by one. Okay, that was my journey. Before we conclude on this, I just really wanted to send a little bit of love out to you. If you are currently dealing with gut health issues, I just really want to encourage you to not feel bad for an extended amount of time. I was almost there where I was just oh my God, it's always bad. It's just going to be bad. And if I hadn't found that doctor in Copenhagen years and years ago that kind of believed in me and, said to me, look, this is not normal, you deserve to feel better, I probably would just have accepted that I was just meant to feel awful. But, with knowledge and everything, you can do some testing yourself. But if you're not really reaching the result and you're not calming your gut symptoms down, you have to consult with a doctor, get a blood test, get a stool test, get a food intolerance test, kind of continue to take some proactive steps for you towards feeling better. You really deserve a life that's free from constraint, and you really deserve a life that's free from symptoms related to your gut concerns. And I'm really rooting for you, as I hope that this kind of encourages you to kind of continue going. Now, if you're still here, I would really like to thank you for joining me for an episode of my Gut Chronicles. If you would like to know how reintroducing those food items into my diet again went, I will happily sit down and record another episode like this. If you found value in me sharing my journey and these revelations, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel or just send me a message. Tell me that you enjoyed this, because this is really hard to put myself out there. But anyways, until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your gut, and cheers to a happier and healthier you. I really hope that you kind of take this as a motivation to continue going and to get everything checked out with yourself.